Well, hi. How are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? Oh, wait, never mind. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite horror movies, or my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And my little ode to Valentine's Day, which is upcoming. It's not like there's a whole lot to do. There's not very many movies that center around that holiday, which I kind of think is a little disappointing. Um, and so we're going to do my second favorite, which of course is in the title, so you know of these movies. My first being My Bloody Valentine, of course, but it's not like that has never been done. Yeah, I still will do it one day, but we're going to do my second. This is my second favorite one. It's probably the only one. However, now I did recently discover a little low budget indie movie that I was really hot when I saw it. It's called Cupid, and it's a low budget indie movie, but I really liked the creature in it. I really liked Cupid, and so I ordered it. It'll be in my or my February haul, and I can't wait to see it actually. I liked the trailer, and I think I'll like it because I really liked the creature in it, and I like the story, and it's a Valentine's horror, and there's not very many of those. But today, we are going to talk about Valentine. Yes. Now, Valentine is a cool little movie from the 2000s. It was released in 2001, and it was directed by Jamie Blanks, written by Tom Savage from his novel, and Donna Powers for the screenplay. And it stars Denise Richards, David Boreanaz, whom you may know as Angel, and Marley Shelton, and yeah. So we're going to talk about that. No, I have not just done Coke. Um, so yeah, we're going to get into that. I really love this movie. I think it's very underrated. I love the mask. It's one of my favorite horror masks. And yeah, the hockey mask. Then you have the sack head, and I love the cherub mask. I love the cherub mask in this movie. It's really cool. I wish they'd have done more, especially the way this ends. I think that they should have done more. I wish they would do more. So we're going to talk about it. Now, Valentine starts much like many horror movies do. It's kind of a revenge tale, as a great deal of horror movies are. And it starts out in 1988 at a Valentine's Day dance with a bunch of bratty little middle schoolers. And you have this little kid who is walking around asking our main little core victim group for a dance. We get to be introduced. His name is Jeremy, and Jeremy, Melton, and he gets to be introduced along with the what later will be the main victim group of this movie. You have Shelly, Lily, Paige, Kate, and finally Dorothy. Now he goes around to each one of them and he asks them to date. And granted, he does look very nerdy, you know. But of course, as you can imagine, their reaction to his asking for a dance is pretty awful, you know. Paige is a total bitch, and it looks as though people like that are that way from the beginning. You can usually tell what they're going to be like when they grow up, unless something changes. So each one of these girls seems to have ended up exactly the way they were in school. And so yeah, it was pretty awful the way that they talked to him. He finally gets to Dorothy though, and she agrees to dance with him. And then I guess they end up under the bleachers where a bunch of bratty boys catch them. They're just snogging a little bit, kiss, and they come up and pour punch on him, and she is so embarrassed to, I guess, be seen with him that she accuses him of attacking her unwillingly. That she wasn't down there, willingly. So they drag him out from under the bleachers and they strip him and kick and punch him as they strip all of his clothes off. And yeah, so we have the good old Terror Train and many other movies that start with a nice little bullying revenge plot, and that's how this one begins. Now we fast forward to 13 years later, so it's a significant amount of time. 13 years has went by, and we are introduced immediately to grown-up um, Shelly, and she's a pre-med student, and she's kind of away from the other girls. They haven't seen her in a couple years, so she's off on her own at college, where she is talking with this guy named Jason Melkin, and he is it is hilarious. The dialogue between them is hilarious. At the little dinner table, obviously he's asked her out on a date, and that's pretty funny. That's one of the great things that I love about this movie is the dialogue in this movie is very, very funny. I mean, it's so 2001, but it's so perfect. I mean, it's just, the interaction between the characters are really perfect. The comedy, the humor in the statements and dialogue. It really reminds me of, if you're a watcher of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, those kind of tete-a-tete, little wordplay between each other, smart-ass wordplay. That goes on a lot, which is kind of funny since Angel is in it, but the dialogue does remind me a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in its humor. And so we get to see them in this really awful date where he ends up like making her pay Dutch and stuff like that, and she kind of informs him, and I would too, that it would probably be best if he sought out psychiatric help because he's a total geek-ass nerd. And I definitely agree with that. So she goes back to get ready for, I guess, her final, and she's going to do an autopsy. And there is this dead guy on the table that she calls Chad, and she's going to do that when she hears a noise. So she leaves and goes down the hall, and we get a nice little jump scare when the anonymous classmate comes from around the corner and scares her in the lockers, in their locker rooms. And after that little scene, she finds a Valentine's Day card on her locker door. So she gets it off and looks at it. And I really like the cards in this movie. They have these really cool little sayings in it. It's like Hallmark, the Hallmark type little poems, but they are very ugly, dark, ugly. Um, and I like those. I like the cards that each one of them get. So she gets this card and she opens it up, and it's got like, a throat slash and along with the little poem, and she goes back in and she's like, yeah, that's really nice. So she goes back in to continue with the autopsy. And right as she starts to cut into Chad, he breathes, and that's a little jump scare too. And it's not Chad, and she like screams and she falls up against the locker, and there's Chad that falls out. And here we get our first kill. Shelly is the first kill. She's the first kill of the movie. and she runs from him. She fights a little bit. She runs from him, and she hides in a body bag, in the body bag room. And he starts. At first, he's like unzipping them, but then he just like gives up and starts stabbing each bag. And right as he gets to the last one, he knows that it's got to be her, I guess. So he zips it down, and it's her. She screams, tries to jump up, and he cuts her throat, just like what was in the card, which was pretty cool. So that was a really cool death scene. That was a good kill. I liked that, and that's where we were introduced to the murderer. I really liked the costume that the killer, our killer, wears in this movie. It's I don't really know how to explain it. It's all black, but it's very dressy and it's very Victorian, with these, button-in belts all the way down, and yeah, I mean, I really liked that, and I love the mask. Like I said, the mask is really cool. The cherub Cupid mask is really cool. I like that in this movie. So yeah. So now we kind of jump to grown-up Kate and Paige. We get to see them grown up, and we get to see the speed dating scene, which was just very light and humorous, as well as they have to deal with each one of these guys that come in from them, in front of them for the 30-second speed dating, and we get to see some doozies. So that adds a lot of humor to it as well, and as they get through with that and they're laughing about their speed dating thing, my notes, I've been like writing books on these movies. It's kind of funny. So Kate and Adam, we get to be introduced to Kate and Adam. This is right after Dorothy calls, and we find out that Dorothy has advised Kate and Paige that Shelly is dead. So they learn that, and we get to see Kate and Adam, and we're introduced to Adam. This is Angel's character. Um, it's funny how an actor can become the character to where you feel more comfortable referring to them as one of their characters than their actual name. And Angel and Buffy are definitely a couple of people who did that. I mean, when you think whatever movie Sarah Michelle is in, you're like, hey, it's a new Buffy movie, or and same with Angel. You just, no matter what he's in, you're just like, Angel's in this movie. You don't really say David, you say Angel is in this movie. So yeah, that's where we get to be introduced to Kate, and Adam is at the funeral. You have the cops asking these four girls, because there were five. We know Shelly's dead now, so he's asking these four, you know, what did they know her? When did they last see her? Stuff like that. So we get to, hear them finding out about it, and they're kind of wondering what's going on. And they also inform him that the last person that was saw with Shelly was this guy named Jason Melkin, and that he is now missing. So I think this is probably what we would call our first red herring, because you're setting up this movie, and here we go. So we have this Jason Melkin that's now missing, and we skip now to Dorothy, who is back at her home, and she gets a Valentine's Day card, which has got a cute little dart saying in it as well. And we're introduced to her stepmother and her father, and that is a really cool scene as well. It's really funny because the stepmother, I mean, this woman can't be a year older than her. Her dad has, from what she says, her dad is obviously like got one of those mail order brides or something. So they get into it right after this really gorgeous guy shows up, walks in, and starts telling her that, you know, his roommate didn't pay the rent, can he stay? And she you can tell that Dorothy is as desperate now as she was when she was a kid, even though now she's very beautiful. And, you know, whereas when she was in high school, the reason that she danced with Jeremy was because she was, I guess, what you would call the fat girl, you know? So you can still tell, though, that she's the same. She still has the same self esteem issues. So this gorgeous guy comes in. We find out his name is Campbell. He gives her a sob story, and she lets him move. You know, well, you can stay here since you've been thrown out of your apartment. So his name is Campbell, and he's allowed to move in, which prompts a fight between her and the stepmother that is hilarious. You know, calling her the mail order bride from hell, and it was a nice little cat fight. And there's some more of the humor of this movie. We then go to Kate, and we get to see her apartment, and she's taking a shower, and the water goes off, and she gets out and is trying to, you know, check out the apartment. At which point, she calls the super, who, you know, to tell him that there's no water, and she is like, she's got to go to work, and her hair is completely sudded. So she looks in the refrigerator hoping that she's got some bottled water, but there's none. So she does what you would hate to have to do, and that she's so desperate, she sticks her head in the toilet in the bog to, to rinse her hair out. But, you know, I mean, I guess if you keep your toilet clean and you know, you haven't used it, I don't know, but I'm not sure I could do that. um, Maybe you could dip some water out with a cup or something, but I just don't think that I could stick my head in the toilet like she does, but there you go. And she goes out into the hallway after doing that and finds a cherub mask in the elevator, you know, causing the door to clamp. And we all of a sudden we get another little jump scare when her neighbor comes out. The banter between those two is hilarious. He's got some kind of weird rhyming thing where everything he says to her he rhymes with Kate. Like, you know, this could be our date, Kate. This could be, you know, just everything that he says rhymes with that. And she gets really tired of it real quick, and you're kind of giggling about it because it is funny. And she's like, "You're scary, Gary." And then she runs into back into the room, and I'm like, "Okay, that was good." So I mean, the writer who made the screenplay, um, I swear you would think it was Josh Whedon. You know what I mean? Because that was really well timed and well placed. So um, we now see Paige and Lily, who live together, grown up, and we're now introduced to them as grown-ups. And they also get a box of candy and a card. And I know the last line of the card is like, "You are what you eat." And it's a big box of chocolates and a big heart, like Valentine's Day heart. And Lily like takes one of the chocolates and is chewing it up and pulls it out. You know, she's like, "What the fuck?" And she pulls it out, and it's full of maggots. The chocolate is full of maggots. You know, it's like those chocolate covered cherries, except inside it's got all these maggots in it. Well, and that was gross. And on the back it says, you know, love JM. So, you know, who? Jason Melkin? Or is it Jeremy Melton, you know, from sixth grade? So, uh, I threw the next page away. But so we get the candy full of maggots, and you know, who is it? JM. Who is JM? So they sit and are talking about it a little bit, and then they start trying to think of everybody that they know with the initials JM, and they really, you know, they kind of come across that because neither one of them can think of anything except Jeremy Melton back from, middle school. So that's the first time that they kind of get that in their head that, what's going on. Now they know about Shelly's death, but that's all that's happened so far, except now everybody's getting these cards. So they think about that, and they go to some art party. Lily has a boyfriend named Max, and he is total scuzzbucket, and he's an artiste. And they go to his art party where we actually see Jason, the guy that was with Shelly. He's standing there and he's smiling, and Paige and Lily actually find him attractive. I guess he is cute, just I couldn't know. But they're like, come over, and he gets this really weird look on his face, and he walks away. And we get to see Lily and Max, start getting into a little confrontation. They sneak off into a corner to start making out, and some other girl shows up, and I believe what happened, from the way he makes it out, is that he sort of like invited her, for like a threesome or something. And as soon as Lily figures that out, she's like, F you, and she starts to walk away. She gets mad, and she's going to leave the party because she's got to go to LA the next day, in the morning. So she's like, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. So she starts doing that, and then we get to see our next kill scene, which is Lily, which is really cool. She's running through this artwork maze that he made, trying to find her way out. She's pissed off, and all of a sudden she turns around, and she gets a nice arrow, sort of like Friday the 13th Part 3. She gets a nice arrow, and he is over there with a bow, and he pops her once, he pops her again. She falls through the back big wall mural. She falls through it, canvas wall mural. She falls through it, hits the back door. He finishes her off with another arrow, and she falls into the skip at the bottom of the stairs, the dumpster. So nobody knows that she's gone, because she was supposed to leave anyway, and that morning to the next morning to go to LA. So there's another mystery that no one knows yet. But now we've seen Lily dead, so two of the mean girls have been knocked off. So Campbell shows up. That's the guy that Dorothy let move in. He shows up at the party, and when they end up having to go to the cops the next day. So we have Kate and Adam having another dinner after the party, where Kate tells him that the party sucked, and they got to see Max and Lily fight, and they got to see Dorothy's new boyfriend Campbell, and there we discovered that Adam, that's David Boreanaz's character, that he's an alcoholic. He has a drinking problem. He hasn't drank for a while. That's the reason that they broke up, and now they are trying to work things out and get back together. So that's kind of a little character development there for Adam's character. And the next day they're checking in with the cop, Detective Vaughn. So he's got them in because they have a murder on their hands now. The Shelly has been murdered, and he wants to know anything that they may think of. So they begin to tell him everything that they know, and he advises them that the parents, and he actually shows it to them, Shelly's parents had received a sympathy card, and on it was Jeremy's actual name spelled out. It was like, so, too bad, so sad, love, Jeremy Melkin. So he wants to know who this Jeremy Melkin is, and that's when they explain about, the middle school thing and the incident that happened. Now, when they leave, the girls are really talking to each other about it. They're like, "Do you really think that it could be him? That he could be back? And what would he look like now?" Because that's what the cop was saying in that meeting, was he could look like anything. If he showed them some age progression pictures, and did they know anybody that looked like that? But it really didn't matter, because he could have had plastic surgery. Anything could have happened, and he could look a lot different. So it doesn't really solve anything. Um, but they didn't recognize any of the age progression photos, and that's when Dorothy admits to the girls, as they're walking, as they're leaving the police department. Uh, they begin asking about it, and Dorothy tells them. They're like, "Well, what you did, he attacked you. Why would he be mad at us?" See, that's what they didn't understand. The other girls, they didn't understand, because they were like, even if this happened, because the cop informed them that, after that occurred, that boy had that shit went down, because of Dorothy's accusation. Not only was he sent to a reform school for 6 months, but he then got put into a mental institution, and they don't know where he's at now. But so there was a serious consequence for her being embarrassed to have kissed him and causing him that trouble. So Dorothy, though, owns up to it and admits to the other girls, as they're walking away, that that wasn't really true, that she had lied, because they're wondering, why would he be after us for something that he did? And she has to inform them that actually he didn't do anything. And she uses the excuse that, well, I was the fat girl, and the boy asked me to dance and gave me a kiss, and so I did it, but I was so humiliated when we were caught that I lied. So the girls, the other girls are like, "Oh shit." So actually there is a motive then. you know. Um, so Kate ends up telling Adam all about it and asking him, if he thinks that was a good motive for what is going on. And, he says, yeah, that sounds like it could be. If you cause somebody that much trouble, but no one knows whether that was actually what's going on or anything. But it is a good theory, and Adam tells her, yeah, that if y'all did that, if Dorothy did that, and that is the consequence of bullying sometimes. So he kind of like, it's not like he comes down on the side of whoever's doing this, but at the same time he doesn't, excuse it, and he tells her, yeah, that could be what's going on. So you're kind of now wondering, was it this Jason guy that was with Shelly? Is it Campbell? Because that was also brought up. It's like, well, how long have you known this Campbell guy you've let move in? Turns out she's only known him for a month, just 1 month, and she's actually let him move into her house, which Paige bitches at her about, which was probably not the correct thing to do. When you watch this movie, you'll see why. And that is that she turns around and is like, you're kidding me, right? You're going to jump on me. Okay, it's a little embarrassing that I don't even know his last name, and gave him a place to stay, but you've let guys that you don't even know their last name into your pants. So it's not like, there's a little bit of moral ambiguity here, and you acting like I'm crazy for not knowing Campbell's last name when you've slept with people you don't know their last name. So you kind of get that, and I agree with that too. So we then kind of, Paige is asked to stay. The detective is talking to Paige again, and he comes on to her, which is a really funny scene because I guess it's not like she hasn't done this crap the whole time. So she may be one of those. Cause see, I'm a big flirt too. Like if I go to a club, at the clubs I was always like a big, huge flirt, and so I think that's actually what Paige is. I don't think she's an actual slut. I think that she is one of those who just like really likes to act sexy and flirty, but they never really follow true. That's kind of like the way. I mean, I understand that because I do that at clubs. You know, I'm like really overtly flirtatious, but I don't really do anything about it. What do they call that? A tease? Am I a big old tease? May have been just a big tease because they don't really show or do anything except that, except to be a big tease. And I guess sometimes it gets her in trouble. I guess, if you act like a slut, you're going to get called a slut, even if you're not a slut. So there you go. But, so we then come to our next kill scene, which is Cupid shows up at Kate's apartment, and he comes in and he grabs this, boiling hot iron that's on the thing, and what it is, I think that he walks towards the bedroom, and it's a really good shot scene, because you see as he picks up the iron and he starts walking towards the bedroom, you see these legs pulling up pantyhose, and so you think it's Kate, and yet when he gets to the door and looks, it's Scary Gary from next door trying on her pantyhose. you know, and you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. And he walks into the room, and Scary Gary kind of like jumps up and is like, it's not what you think. Look, dude, I'm just not well. I'm like, yeah, you know, know thyself, baby. Know thyself. Admitting it is half the problem. But he ends up brutally beating him to death with that hot iron. Not burns his face, beats him to death. It was that was pretty nasty. Death scene. So. Kate has showed up down the stairs with Adam, and they, are talking about Dorothy's Valentine's Day party, and they have their little banter, and then she writes him a note. He gives her a present, and I guess she didn't have one for him, so she pulled out a note, or a sticky note, and told him to turn around, and she wrote, what did she write? I owe you some TLC. So, that was the gift that she gave him. So I guess he stuck it in his pocket. She goes upstairs, and you think she's going to run into Scary Gary's body, or Cupid or something, and instead it's Paige that she almost knocks out with this cleaned, wrapped up iron. And I think that's what Scary Gary was over there for. He came over to do some ironing that she let him do. But instead, it's Paige. So she almost knocks Paige out with the iron. But they get a phone call in which the detective says that they have picked up that Jason Marquette, the guy that was seen with the last guy that was seen with Shelly. So you're like, okay, so it couldn't be Jason Marquette then, because we just saw Cupid kill someone, right? Maybe? I don't know. So, you're left wondering if you can rule him out or not. And at this point in the movie, I really was still up in the air. I didn't really know who to suspect. So they were really good by keeping you not giving anything away. giving you the joy of like not knowing who it was, because I really didn't have any idea at this point who it was. So we're back to Dorothy now. Dorothy tries to get it on with Campbell, and she keeps calling him her boyfriend and stuff like that, but they've never even done anything. So she tries to get him, and they end up in bed, but he can't get it up. So, you're left with that, and she gets up, does the "it's okay" thing, and she gets up and takes a shower. He goes in there and gives her a present, and it's a cupid. It's a little flying cupid necklace. So, you're like, okay, let me take a second look at Campbell now, right? And what's interesting about it is that you still remember the boy. So you are kind of like visually going, could he have grown up into this person? And yeah, he could. All of the main guys, Max, Adam, um, that Jason guy, Campbell, all of them physically look like they could have, been what became of that boy. They all have the, you know, acceptable skin tone, hair, facial structure. So I don't know if that was done on purpose by the casting, whether they casted this movie because, if it was a different race or something, you could rule them out. That can't be him because there's no way that could, you can do a lot of things, but you can't change, you can't go from Caucasian to Asian, you know what I mean? So I think it feels like they did that on purpose, that all of the main guys in the movie were cast to be acceptable grown-up versions of Jeremy Melkin. And so yeah, that I think that was a really good thing that they did, because once again, you as a viewer didn't have any tools to weed people out, and you never did. Unless they're dead, like it couldn't be Scary Gary, right? Because he's dead. But unless somebody is dead, you can't weed them out. And so far, none of the main guys have died, so they're all in the running, and they physically look as though they could be Jeremy. So I thought that was good. That was pretty cool. Um, we learn a little right then, because right now it's before the party. So Campbell says he's got to go to a business meeting, but he'll be back, you know, before the party starts. So he says that he wants to get a workout before he goes to this meeting. So he goes to the workout. I guess she's got her own gym. She's rich. She's very rich. They've got like this big mansion and stuff. So, which is why he would target her, right? But so he goes down to the exercise room, and he gets a phone call from her. And this is where you kind of learn what he is. Still doesn't rule him out, but you learn what he is, and that is he is a total parasite, leech user, con man, who hooks up with people and does as little for them while getting as much. You know, he's a lover boy. He wants to, like that "You Me at Six" song. He wants to get them vulnerable, lonely people, and give them just enough affection to get whatever he wants, because he's on the phone and he's talking all of this business transactions and using, I think it was her dad's account number to get some money transferred into his bank. So you find out right then that he is a shady con guy. And she calls down and asks him to, the hot water has went out. So she asks him to go relight the hot water heater in the basement. So he goes down there, and that's our next kill scene. We finally get to eliminate one of the guys because Campbell goes down there to relight the pilot light, where he is then brutally butchered by an axe. So what have we got now? We've got a good butcher knife, throat slash, we've got arrows, and now we have a big, nice axe. Not a little cleaver either, a big, nice fire axe in the back. So I like the way that they are changing it up. I don't think, we'll see when we get to the end, but I don't think there is any kill that's the same, which is kind of neat. There is no kill that's the same, unless I find something along the way. So he's killed in the basement with an axe, which is a very good kill scene as well. And we are now at the party scene, Dorothy's Valentine's party. So we get to see Paige and Brian insulting everybody, acting their stuck-up selves. And Brian is the guy that she met during that speed dating scene at a little while back. So she has invited him to the party, and he comes, and they dance all sexy on the floor, stuff like that. And then he's like, he wants to go up to the bedroom. So they go up to the bedroom because he wants to show her something. And when they get up there, he just like drops her down, drops his pants, you know. And Paige is a good character, you know. I mean, she's a bitch, but I like her. I like the banter that she uses, you know. She's got that resting bitch face and resting bitch mouth. She's got both of those, which I do too. I like that. But so she's like standing before him, and you know, she's looking at it, and she's like, "You invited me up here to look at your penis?" And he's like, "Yeah, get to it, wax it," you know. And she's like, "Okay, you know, I may talk like a tramp, but I'm not going to be treated like one, you know." So she turns on the charm, and she gets him to strip, and she ties him to the bed and puts a blindfold on him. And then she says, "You want me to wax it, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." So she gets this big candle that's been burning for a while, so it's full of wax, and that's exactly what she does. She waxes it for him. And then she walks out, leaving him tied up, butt naked, and leaves the door wide open for everybody out there in the hall to see him laying there. So she definitely got him back. So, and also, this has and I'll talk about that later too, but this has a fantastic soundtrack, and it's right there at that scene that we get to hear one of my favorite. You know, I love aggressive techno, and there's a song playing called Filthy Mind, which I have on my computer. I've had it since it came out. I absolutely love that song. It's an aggressive industrial techno song called Filthy Mind. I love it, and it was playing. Was the song that was playing during this movie, or during this scene of the movie. Little trivia. So now we get to meet. Now earlier in the movie, we had seen for a very short period of time Campbell's ex. It was some girl that showed up for just a couple of minutes a little while back, you know, looking for Campbell. She was obviously wealthy. And she kind of insulted Dorothy, like by going, "Did you know that he ripped me off?" and all this kind of stuff, and that's all that he's here for you? You know, he don't care about you, he cares about your trust fund. So she obviously had experienced Campbell. Now, of course, we all know he's dead now. So she's walked in, after that scene, she's walked in now, and you get to see her again. And actually, it's kind of weird that that's not a character that I thought was going to have anything in the movie, but she shows back up, and she actually becomes our next kill, because, you know, she's once again really pissed at Dorothy. Well, not really. She's pissed about this guy. She thinks Dorothy's an idiot because she had been an idiot. And she sees the necklace, and she's like, "That's my necklace. That's one of the many pieces of jewelry that he stole from me. Don't you understand?" And they're mad at her and want to throw her out and stuff like that. But she sneaks away, and she's looking through Campbell's stuff and all, trying to find anything. And she finds the watch that this expensive Rolex that Dorothy had gotten for him. So she steals that, and then we get a nice kill scene with her. She actually stumbles across Cupid, dragging the body of the maid through the billiard room. And first she thinks it's a joke, and then Cupid sees her and pulls out a butcher knife and goes after her. So we get the obligatory slasher chase scene where she's running all through there, and she ends up going down into the gym area, and she hides in the sauna. And you think that she gets away with it, and then she finds Campbell's body. You know, so that was a cool little scene. And next thing you know, Cupid comes after her again, and they run through the gym area, and he ends up like knocking her through the showers, the sliding shower doors, and so they're all left jagged at the bottom from where she was thrown through it. And he grabs her, and then he, pushes her head and throat down on the jagged spikes of glass. So yeah, she's dead. And that was a good kill scene as well. This movie's got a lot of good slasher kill scenes. And once again, he came after her with the butcher knife, right? But it didn't end up that way, so that doesn't count. We have a whole different method of execution here. So you got that out of the way. She's dead. And what's next? The detective calls and says that that guy, Jason, that they had to let him go. And that's when she tells her that they have found out that Lily never showed up, because Max also showed up at the party and told them that Lily never showed up in LA. So when the detective calls to let them know that this Jason guy has been let go, they let him know that Lily never made it to LA, and then he turns on his lights. He says he'll be there. So you got the detective on the way, and Paige decides that she wants to go relax in the hot tub. So now we have Paige's kill, which is very good as well. Now remember, at the very beginning when all of this happened, her smart-ass remark to that little boy, Jeremy, when he asked for a dance was, "I would rather be boiled alive." So, yeah. So she goes to get into the hot tub, and you're kind of thinking of that, when stuff starts going down, because Cupid appears, and there is a really cool kill scene. I'd never really seen that, but I guess it makes sense. Maybe it's some kind of child protection thing or something. But this hot tub had a glass roof, like a convertible car, like an auto, like a convertible. There was actually a glass thing that you can put over this hot tub. And I thought, what the fuck is that? I've never seen that on a hot tub. And I thought, well, maybe it's some kind of safety thing. Like for kids, that makes sense, that there's this thing you can, a big glass top, a top that you can put down over the hot tub and lock it. So I'm like, well, I've never seen that before, but that, and still to this day I haven't, except in this movie, but I guess it's a safety thing you can get on hot tubs. But Cupid attacks and pushes her into the hot tub and puts the thing on it and locks the thing, and then comes out with a big giant drill, like Sorority House, or what's that? Yeah, Slumber Party Massacre. But got this big giant drill, and he's drilling at her into the, in the hot tub, drilling holes in it, and finally ends up getting her. But because he's put so many holes in the top, she's able to kick it, you know, and kick the glass out. And so what he does then is he throws the drill still attached to the wall with the flex. He throws it in there, and she is fried, electrocuted, boiled alive in the hot tub, which is, I guess, karma, considering that that's what she screamed at that poor boy when he asked her for a dance, that she would rather be boiled alive, and now you are, sweetie. Dreams really do come true. So, where are we at? Paige gets killed in the hot tub with the drill. Dorothy accuses Adam. Dorothy and Kate sort of have this little tete-a-tete between them, where all of Dorothy's insecurities are kind of coming out, and she's like, how do you know it's not Adam that's doing all of this? Because Kate was like, how do you know it's not Campbell? And they get into this little fight about, you're just mad because, y'all were always the pretty fun ones, and I was the fat one, and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my God, get over it. It's a pity party from hell. But they kind of accuse each other of boyfriends of being it. Now we know it's not Campbell because his ass is dead. Yeah. So they start having a little fight about that, and Kate decides to call the detective and tell the detective that stuff is going on, but she can't find him. So she gets pissed off because of her fight with Dorothy, and she goes outside. When she goes outside, she's still trying to call the detective when she hears a phone ringing. So she goes over there looking for where the phone is ringing, only to discover, when she reaches down to get the phone at the edge of this outside pool, like the little koi pond kind of thing, she reaches down to get the thing, and the detective's head pops up, along with a note that said, I owe you, I owe you some TLC. That note that she had wrote Adam is with the detective's head. So now you're like, oh fuck. And that's sort of her reaction as well. It's like, oh fuck. So it could be Adam. Adam, how would the note be there? Okay? So, yeah. Now, she had already had a fight with Adam because she caught him drinking. Yeah, she caught him drinking at the party. So, he, I guess, had went upstairs and passed out. And, so she goes back in. She's kind of scared to death now, obviously, as she just had a head come bobbing up at her out of the koi pond. Probably would make anyone a little nervous. So she goes back into the house and starts like running around. And next thing you know, you see Adam coming down the stairs. And he's acting really, really creepy. And now you're pretty much sure that it's Adam, And if you listen to the dialogue really closely, the things that she is saying, like, oh, you're still here. And yes, I'm still here. And she's like, I don't understand why you did it. And he's like, I just made a mistake. Well, you see, in her mind, she's talking about the murder. The murder is what's going on. But if you think about the dialogue and the question she's asking, it can actually mean her catching him drinking and the fight that they had. So what sounds to her like a confessions, and to you as well, if you don't stop and think, you have to stop and think that, yeah, but that's not what he means. That's not what he thinks she means. So you're still not sure it's him, even though they certainly are acting like it. And so she ends up like punching him in the face, and she goes running from him, and he goes chasing her. So is it to kill her, or is it because he doesn't understand what the fuck is going on, and why is she so mad about this little fight that they had, this little incident? So it can go in either direction. And that's when she starts finding all of the bodies. So now she's really flipping, you know, because she's finding all of this stuff, and she thinks it's him, and I think it's him, and he's coming after her. And next thing you know, though, boom, in her face, like at the top of the stairs, is Cupid. And Cupid, like, jumps her and tries to stab her. And they end up, like, falling down the stairs, Kate and Cupid. And they land, you know, sort of right next to each other. And she starts getting out of the way, and she looks up. And right about the time that she looks up, Cupid like jumps up and starts to attack her, and bam, 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 bam. Cupid is shot full of holes. And okay, she looks, and it's Adam. Okay, so Adam just shot Cupid. So she's confused, and you're confused. And he comes down and he grabs her, you know, and she's like crying and carrying on. And he reaches over to pull the mask off, and you're like, yes, please. And she's like, no, don't do that. And you're like, no, shut the fuck up. Let him do that. We really need him to do that. I want to know what's up. And he pulls the mask off, and it's Dorothy. And you're like, well, damn. I didn't see that coming. So it's Dorothy. Now, why the fuck would Dorothy do that? You know, and that's kind of the first thing that I thought was like, okay, I know she's insecure, and I know she's mad at him and stuff like that, but why? I just don't really feel, if you're gonna play detective, I really don't feel that there is a motive for her to have done this other than just like going crazy or something. So Kate's like asking him, you know, like, why would she do this? What, you know, and he's like, well, you know, people are so lonely, they do things and they can lose their mind and stuff like that. Now, okay, yeah, possibly, but you know, and she's like resting her hand and her head on his chest, and he's like, you know, it'll be all right now and stuff like that. And you think the movie's fixing to end, well, and it does, but you think the movie's fixing to end like that, and instead, though, blood falls on her face, like a drop of blood falls on her face and starts running down, and it zooms up, and you see Adam with this weird look on his face, this psychotic look staring into space with a big nosebleed. Okay, so let me explain that. That was a little thing I kept from you. From the very beginning, when the boy was attacked in 6th grade at the dance, the first thing that happened to him when, you know, those boys poured the punch on him, he got flipped out. You know, I mean, he flipped out, and it caused a nosebleed. Every murder that we saw in this movie, a nosebleed came through the cherub mask. So I don't know if it's stress induced or what, but every murder that we saw take place, there was a nosebleed that came out of the cherub mask, just like the boy had. So the movie ends when they zoom up to that nosebleed on Adam's face with him, and you know Angel can look psychotic when he wants to. So with him doing that psychotic look, it's got that nosebleed. And you're like, that makes a lot more sense. So was it Dorothy? Or did he somehow get Dorothy in that costume? I don't know. Do you? So we don't know. But I think it was made pretty damn clear that that was Adam who was doing all this. But you know, Dorothy did tell that guy to go into the basement. But it was on the the intercom. But I like that. I like that you're left not knowing whether it was really Dorothy or whether it was really Adam. Because it leaves you something to, debate with your friends. And to wonder, was it Dorothy or was it Adam? I think it was Adam. I think somehow he got her into that costume. Maybe she did some and he did some. But you see, here's the problem as an investigator. I don't see Dorothy having any motive to do that. Does she have a motive to be a low self-esteem, prey for predators type individual? Does she have the motive to be kind of a bitter bitch? Yeah, so do I. So do a lot of people. um, is there any reason for her to kill all of her friends, though, in a vengeful manner? You know, I mean, and here's my last bit of investigatory statement. Was the hot tub a coincidence? Because when Jeremy asked Paige for the dance, and she said, I would rather be boiled alive, Jeremy heard that. The people around her heard that. Dorothy was not their friend at the time. Dorothy was sitting on the other side of the place. She was the fat girl sitting on the bleachers. She was not with them. So she didn't know that. She did not. So if it was an ironic kill, a karmic ironic kill, there was no way for her to know that. Okay? But the boy knew that. That's what she said to him. I would rather be boiled alive. And, if you look at the statements that the girls made in response to him, they all kind of, it was kind of karmic murders. So no, I don't believe that it was Dorothy. I don't know how he got her into that uniform or into that costume. But I believe that it was Adam, and I believe that the final scene let you know that it was Adam, because every murder that took place, you never saw Dorothy have a nosebleed, but every murder that took place had a nosebleed. And the boy had a nosebleed at the beginning, and Adam had a nosebleed at the end. So I believe that it was Adam who was doing it. I don't know how he got her into that costume though, but that's what I believe. So there we go. I prattled on. Happy Valentine's Day. Except, as this movie proved, remember this. Love kills. Okay? Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day on that note, guys and ladies. Didn't Vinnie Vincent Invasion have a wonderful song called Love Kills? Yeah, it's in like one of the Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the Dream Warriors? Is it Dream Warriors? Yeah. The theme song for Dream Warriors, right? Isn't that Love Kills by Vinnie Vincent? It's in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street. But they got a song called Love Kills. And you just saw it on my board. Love So happy Valentine's Day on that note. I can't wait to see that movie Cupid that I bought. That looked very interesting. And this was Valentine 2001. It's a really underrated 2000 slasher. Don't really understand why it's rated R though. It had zero nudity. If you think you're going to see anything, you're not. It has zero nudity. The Covenant had a girl's butt shot and a boy's butt shot. Full view. It was rated PG-13. Why this is rated R, I really don't know. I think that they could have done a little bit more. I think they could have added a little bit of gore and give us the obligatory slasher scenes. Slasher's just not a slasher if it doesn't have a boob shot for the dudes and lesbians and a butt shot for the gays and women. So, if he doesn't have that, it's not a legit slasher in my opinion. But that's just me. Well, I'm giving you the boob shots. I don't have to have the boob shots in there. I want the butt shots though. But still, you get where I'm coming from when we're talking about these things. So yes, that is 2001's Valentine. And I really like this movie. I really think it's underrated. I think that it's one of my favorite little slashers from the 2000s. And yeah, so I will see you in the next movie. I am now going to do my January collection update and get that out of the way. That's all the movies and music that I got during January, because it's February and stuff will start rolling in that I got ordered to add to my collection. So I will see you back in just a few, and my time anyway. And I will talk to you later. Love you, miss you, bye. You're a very special person. Always remember that. No matter what the world is doing to you or saying to you, you are the only one of you, and support indie horror films. So, love you, miss you, bye. And I will see you in the next one. Stay scary and keep screaming, yeah? When appropriate. Always when appropriate. Which is, I kind of like what I said in the last time, which is like, keep screaming, but only when appropriate. And in this day and age, that's every fucking time you wake up. Bye.